Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica Egli, and I work for the Englert Theatre in downtown Iowa City. And I have worked there for 12 years, so I have a lot of knowledge about it. And I'm here to talk to you about what it's like to work at an arts nonprofit organization and kind of my journey to how I got where I am. So let me pull up my presentation. One moment while I share my screen. Okay, so this is a little picture of the marquee and our Englert logo and all of my various titles. So it's very common when you work at a nonprofit organization to have multiple jobs within that organization. So, and I'll talk about all the things that I do a little bit later in the presentation, but I am the events director, that's my title. I am also the production manager for our two festivals, Mission Creek and Witching Hour, which I'll also talk a little bit about. I am the programmer, a programmer for Englert Wavelength, which is our arts education series, the creator of Acting Out, which is our summer youth acting camp, and not really related to the Englert, but kind of, I am an adjunct instructor at the University of Iowa where I teach event planning courses. So the Englert is a nonprofit organization. If you are unfamiliar with what a nonprofit is, nonprofits means all of the funds that are generated by us or that we receive go right back into serving and supporting the organizational operations. We rely on community support via personal donations, partnerships with other businesses, and grants, which is funding that we get from the nation and a government to help fund our program. In addition to ticket revenue and rental revenue, which I'll talk about as well. And we work to serve our organization's mission. So the mission of the Englert Theatre in a nutshell, which is the first sentence here, is to inspire and activate positive community growth through the arts. That's the simplest way of putting it. This includes maintaining and operating our building, which is a historic theater, and expanding our programming beyond the walls of our theater. That's kind of with the festivals that I talked about a little bit earlier. So here's a couple pictures of the historic theater. You might recognize it if you've been downtown and seen the Englert today. In that very first picture I showed, there was that big yellow marquee. Well, back in 1912, when it was first built, it had a marquee that looked like this. And that's when the theater was built by Mr. Englert himself. Here is what it looked like on the inside. I know it's a little bit blurry, but it's still pretty cool to see this old theater. It was a vaudeville theater. Vaudeville is a form of performance arts that sort of like a variety act, like a talent show almost. Lots of different acts throughout the evening. Mission Creek Festival is a festival that we produce in the springtime. It focuses on music, literature, and community. We have pretty big events for this festival. This is a picture of one of them. That's Jenny Lewis. Witching Hour is a smaller festival that we produce in the fall. It's only 2 days. Mission Creek is 6 days. And this one we partner with Little Village. That's one of those business partnerships I talked about. Witching Hour is more about education and smaller events. One of the ones that we did, Puddle's Pity Party. This was a clown who sang like covers of pop songs as opera ballads. That's a big sentence. It's pretty cool. It was, and that's one of our board members there holding his hand. So the Englert does lots of different kinds of programming. Local programming, local musicians. This is the Fez. They are a group that exists in Iowa City. We also host people from, actually, move this over here for a second. We host international acts as well, like Ladysmith Black Mambazo. We've had comedy. Second City comes most Valentine's Day time. It's a really, really popular comedy act. We also have dance. Every year we host the Nutcracker with Nolte Academy, which is a local dance company. And we also have different kinds of art forms. This is an illusionist not a magician, an illusionist. There's a difference. And his name is Nate Sandiforth. He's actually from Iowa, and he's really, really talented. And then we also host writers. They will be interviewed, like Lena Dunham is here, or we'll have lectures. We use our stage for lots and lots of different reasons. So a little bit about me. Now my screen's on the wrong side again. Whoops, sorry. I have a Bachelor of Arts degree in theater arts. My focus was on acting, and I got that at the University of Iowa. Here is a picture of me performing in college in a show called Las Hermanas Padilla. It was one of a new play festival, which was really, really fun. I love that I have a theater arts degree because I was told when I was younger not to pursue art as a degree or as a profession because it couldn't lead to a career. Ha! You can read that. But I think that's funny because it is absolutely possible to get a career in the arts. I am living proof of that, and I'll even talk more about that right now. Totally achievable artistic careers in my field: audio engineering and lighting design. That's tech work. This is a picture of our lighting designer. He's actually at the audio board right now, though. Nick Kraft, he used to work for us in the theater. Now you can see our big, beautiful theater as well. So that's a part of the field that is more tech heavy. Same with playhouse set design and carpentry, if that's more up your alley. There are people who are needed to actually build sets for plays. This is a picture of one right there. Tour and or band management and representation. That's a big piece of our industry right now. People who basically manage the careers and all the logistics for bands as they tour around the country to perform. And this is a screen that shows lots of different agencies that do that work: Paradigm Talent Agency, Live Nation, AEG, High Road Touring, FPC Live, and the William Morris Endeavors Agency. And nonprofit arts and development or fundraising is another option. Right now, the Englert is in the middle of a campaign called Strength and Grow Evolve. It's a joint campaign with Film Scene, which is one of our partner organizations. They're a local art house cinema in downtown Iowa City as well. And we've been working with them to raise money so that we can renovate our space, which is actually currently happening right now. If you've been downtown recently, our marquee is actually not even there. And you can see there's scaffolding around the building. Since we have a historic building, we have a lot of improvements we need to make and upkeep that we need to do. And then Film Scene just opened a new location. So that was part of the campaign as well. All of that requires people who are willing to ask people for money. Venue and events management, that's what I do. This is a picture of Kent Smith. He's our head usher, but it's at the box office here. House management, I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But those are the people who basically manage the shows that happen at the theater, from managing all of the staff that help make the events happen. Oops, sorry, I had to take my dog's bone away because she was being too loud. To making sure the artists are comfortable and that the patrons are safe and happy when they're in our space. It's an important job. Kent helps with that a lot. Teaching is also another great option. I know it's a little bit cliche to say, to study art so that you can teach, but it's a really important aspect of things. Just sharing knowledge with young people is a real gift. So I enjoy doing it very much right now, for instance. And then also there's the true artistic professions like choreography, being a director, a playwright, or a performer. That is all areas that might be more difficult to do full time, which is why I've listed all of the other ones. I know lots and lots of professional artists, though, that do that and do it part-time or full-time. And there's a picture of one of them. So the last little bit about me. So I got where I am today by saying yes to all opportunities, to working really, really hard and dedicating my time and efforts to an organization whose mission resonates with my personal values. I think that's one of the most important things about working for a nonprofit, is really knowing that it's easier to do the work when you feel like what you're doing aligns with what matters to you personally, and the arts, sharing the arts, making sure they're accessible to people, making sure they're educational. That's all stuff that really matters to me, which is why I've been at the Englert for so long. Jobs I've held at the Englert Theatre. This is kind of like roadmap to where I've gotten. I don't have pictures for all of this, I don't think, no. But I'll get into the details of some of them coming up here. I started out as a concessions rock star. I know that sounds silly, but that's literally what the title was. I helped sell beverages and snacks at shows when I was in college. I started in 2008 and worked behind a 6-foot table, digging my arms into coolers full of ice water to serve people cold beverages and count money and stuff like that. That's where I started. Always going to be a thing to start at the bottom of an organization and work your way up. Next, I was a box office attendant, which was really fun. I loved working in the box office. I got to interact with people face to face. I got to solve problems and get to know the organization better. I was a house manager, which I know I got into a little bit before. So taking care of the shows from start to finish. I was the first person in and the last person to leave. And the whole patron experience and artist experience outside of the technical elements that the audio engineer, lighting designer would take care of, that was on me and my team. It was a big job and I did it for a lot of years. It was really fun. Next, I was the associate patron services manager. And that basically means I was assistant to a patron services manager. One thing to note is that whenever offered a new title, associate is always a better choice than assistant. It gives you more authority a little bit. It gives you more oomph, I suppose. You're not just someone's assistant, you're their associate. And then I was the events manager, followed by the events director. Manager is, again, a title that comes before you are a director of something. So director is my current title, but now I do all of the other stuff that I mentioned at the top of the presentation here. So going into a little bit more about what I do, my responsibilities as an events director. I manage the calendar and contracts and budget and manage the relationships of all of our rental clients, which are about 50 per year. So that's a really big part of my job. Rental revenue is a big part of our budget. I am the team leader for our production team. So that's supervisors, audio and lighting, and stagehand personnel. So everybody on stage that makes that work happen from a logistical and technical point of view. Those are my staff members. I assist in managing the front of house team as well. So that's house managers, concessions, security guards, volunteer ushers, box office too. So I just help out in that area since those are all jobs that I've done before. My input can be helpful. And I arrange parking, hotels, and backline for any artists per their contracted agreements. So backline, if you don't know that term, is all of the band equipment that they might not be traveling with. Drum sets, amplifiers, big stuff that just might not fit in their vehicle. And here's an example of a rental event. This was a conference. And then we've also hosted weddings before. I really enjoy hosting weddings. Our space is really beautiful, so they make really good pictures and people really enjoy getting married in our space. As a festival production manager, I participate in pre-festival conversations to ensure that the programmers are considering logistics. So there are people who design the festival and come up with who's going to come and what order they're going to play in, and that's like to curate the experience for people. And then my job in logistics is to make sure that everything they want to happen can actually happen. So it's fun. I like that part of my job. I assess and coordinate all venue and event staffing and volunteer needs. I arrange travel, hotel, hospitality. Hospitality is like green rooms, food and beverages, anything that they request that be in their dressing rooms before they arrive, that's hospitality. Backline again, for all the artists and participants. And I am there to make sure that the festival goes as planned. And I usually have an intern that helps me. Here's a picture of one of those events. We've seen all kinds of crazy stuff at our festivals. Comedy, this is Margaret's show. She's a pretty famous comedian. And this one's cool because the artist, if you look right in the middle of the screen, there's the guy with the guitar. At the very last song, he went into the audience and played while people gathered around him. And I thought that was so cool. It was a really beautiful moment for the very last day of Mission Creek Festival, which is always, you're exhausted and you've worked so hard. And then this like lovely, beautiful community thing happens right at the end. And then as a programmer for Englert Wavelength, which is the arts education program that I spoke about, I develop and execute ideas for programming through different artistic disciplines. I help develop the curricula for our annual summer acting camp and prepare for that expansion that we hope will happen. This year's a little bit harder because of COVID-19, which I will talk a little bit more about. I research the needs of our community around the arts and education and try to fill in the gaps. Arts education is not something that's supported by everyone. And so there are places where, you know, there are just gaps in the education in that area. So as the Englert Theater, we feel strongly about trying to provide whatever the community needs in that way. And then I also just work to make art accessible for all people, regardless of their background or privilege. This is a picture from acting camp year 1, which was 2018. It's a very new camp where the kids are doing a little game called Build a Robot. I won't get into it, but it's really fun. So what I love about my job, I actually have a little video that I want to show you talking about, it's me talking about one of my favorite Englert memories, which I think really encompasses what I love about my job, aside from the community engagement and just working with people, which I really, really love, being able to see both sides of the industry, from what happens in the background to how the audience perceives things. Like that whole well-rounded view is really meaningful to me, and it makes me love my job. So let me click here and I'm going to show you a little video. So my favorite Englert memory and my favorite Iowa City concert are actually the same memory. I was raised on classic rock music and folk music, go dad. I had a lot of vinyl around me growing up. I remember getting to college and listening to Carole King's Tapestry like over and over and over again and just sobbing in my dorm room because that's just a very difficult transition for people and she makes you feel better. But we had frickin' Art Garfunkel come and perform here. Just seeing that on the calendar like made my heart stop. And that night, I was house managing, of course, and I got to do his makeup. I sat in his dressing room with him and I did his eyebrows and his eyeliner and his mascara because he needs stage makeup, you know, and just got to talk to him for like a half an hour. It was amazing. I remember he was talking about his stage fright because he has really intense stage fright to this day. And I asked him, don't you wish that that would go away? Doesn't it inhibit you somehow? Isn't it frustrating? And he was like, absolutely not. That energy is what brings me alive on stage. And I was like, oh, cool. That is so cool to know that about him. And then he hated my Pink Floyd tattoo. And it was just really funny. He was so funny. And later that night, I am sitting in the balcony, just outside the balcony, on the floor next to one of my favorite ushers who I adored, just again crying. I've cried like 3 times in this interview, crying because I'm hearing all of these songs that I've heard over like hundreds of times recorded, but they're live now and it's his voice and he's right there, and it was so beautiful. It was like a dream come true kind of day. So that explains why I love my job. I got to do someone's makeup, a famous person's makeup. That was so cool. Let me see if I can go back to my full screen here for this. And then challenges. So there are quite a few challenges working in a nonprofit. I mean, money is always a thing, and you work with lots of different personalities, so you have to be really adaptable. I think that's a talent that I gained in my theater arts studies, was just being able to listen really well to people and to consider how they learn, how they communicate, and be able to adapt to whoever I'm talking to so that I can have the best possible customer service experience, or they can have the best possible customer service experience, and I can provide that for them. And so right now, the challenge is COVID-19 related. We can't host live events right now. And so my summer camp, I have to do virtually. And before I knew anything about this, I was going to after school programs to promote my summer camp and doing workshops. So once we figured out we couldn't do that live anymore, my team and I decided to put together videos for the workshops instead. So this second little video, short, is just a little example of how we've adapted to this new climate where we can't participate in art events in big crowds anymore, not yet anyway. And so we have to come up with creative alternatives. So this is what we did.
Sanford Meisner, a very famous acting teacher, defined acting as behaving truthfully under imaginary circumstances. Take a minute and think that over. Behaving truthfully under imaginary circumstances. What does that mean? Well, what it means might just blow your mind, because guess what? Acting is not pretending. Sure, we may have to imagine things that aren't really there when we're acting, and that might seem like pretending, but what we're really doing is using our imaginations so well that we stimulate real responses in our minds and our bodies to the imaginary circumstances. Let's start with an example. So you're in a play, and your blocking direction, oh, don't worry, we'll cover blocking in another segment, is to walk from stage right to stage left. We'll also cover stage directions. So your blocking direction is to walk from stage right to stage left. And your imaginary circumstance is that you're walking to school in a blizzard. So take some time and walk around the space you're in as if you're in a blizzard. I'll even join you. You're all bundled up in a thick coat, a scarf, gloves, and a hat. But the wind blows fiercely. Your eyes are burning from the icy snowflakes flying towards your face. It's so difficult to walk, there's 1.5 feet of snow on the ground. You either have to take big, careful steps or just trudge on through as you think encouraging thoughts to yourself to keep yourself motivated. It'll be okay. I'm only 2 blocks away. This will be over soon. I can do this. Now stop. What are you feeling right now? Maybe you feel cold. Maybe you feel worried or anxious. Maybe you're just remembering more of what it feels like to trudge through a snowstorm on your way to school, because that's something that's actually happened to you. Well, all of those feelings that came up when you spent time imagining this alternate reality, those were real. And those feelings are what make you an actor.
That is the end of my PowerPoint presentation. I think the main takeaways that I want to leave you with: yes, you can get a job in the arts. I think it's extremely valuable to pursue a job in the arts. If you are more drawn towards STEM careers, there are still plenty of jobs in the arts if you like both things. And whatever you do, work really, really hard. Say yes to every opportunity that comes your way until you get the job that you want. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure.